And finally, for those that are still with me, I wanted to finish up on what I was talking about. So the Cruz and everybody else, they really like to blame Obama for all of our problems. They obviously want to be able to make this a Democrat-Republican issue. And I really don't have any respect for anybody that's going to do that, especially a president that claims that Trump is acting unpresidential when he's the one that can't seem to get rid of him even when he's not there and not talk about him. So the blame game really just divides us into Republican and Democrat and rich and poor and white and not white and Christians and non-Christians and vaxxers and non-vaxxers and pro-gay and anti-gay and all of these other issues. And we're not even acting like Americans. And, when I start reading about communism, I find that we as patriots are actually instituting the communist tactics, divide and conquer. The other thing, too, that most patriots that I'm finding don't get is that they have this undying support of the military-industrial complex. And I think they're confusing that with the support of the men and women in our military. And there's a difference. I actually, at the event last night, I actually asked a pretty critical question. I asked how many people were vets. People raised their hand. And I said, now, how many of you are getting veterans benefits? And some of them raised their hand, and I said, now, you guys all took an oath to the Constitution, right? And they said, yes. And I said, so, tell me where in the federal Constitution it says that the federal government should be able to collect money from taxpayers to be able to pay for retirement benefits for veterans. Now, I'm sure I probably didn't make any friends by that statement, but understanding the Constitution, it's pretty well clear that there's no provision in there authorizing Congress or the executive branch or the judiciary to be able to create a socialist type of form of entitlement to give benefits to the military. And people may be upset about that, and that's fine. As neocons, you would expect that. However, you can't be constitutional and unconstitutional at the same time. If they very well admitted that there's no provision in the federal Constitution, then that would signify the fact that they're in violation of their oath accepting benefits by a federal entity when that entity should have been left to the states or the people. We have undying support for internationalism. We want to be involved in every country. And most people don't realize is that these are under the UN. This is under the United Nations. This is not under the sovereignty of the United States of America, especially under our Constitution. And most people that support this kind of thing are, Tea Party or not Tea Party or Fox News or whatever it is they are, and they have no idea that internationalism is a great part of what's increasing our debt, the very thing that they're scared of and that they are blaming Obama for. Obama's occupation in all of these foreign countries is not an Obama issue. It's a Bush issue. It's an issue that was created by something much greater than those and actually done by the controlling entities under the Council on Foreign Relations that established the United Nations. The other thing, too, that internationalism does is it increases the police state because it forces people to be able to submit all of their freedoms for security. And our Constitution only has few and defined powers talking about what the government can do to be able to keep us safe, because our founders knew that if the governments were allowed to be able to do whatever they wanted in the name of safety, all freedom would be obliterated. The other thing that the internationalism does is it absolutely obliterates our national sovereignty, which we don't really have much of anyway, because people aren't paying attention to things like the Trans-Pacific Partnership and Common Core and its connection to Agenda 21, run by UNESCO underneath the United Nations, and somehow we're still conspiracy theorists because we're still talking about getting out of the UN. The refugees is not the problem. The refugee issue is the evil intent behind the problem. We've accepted refugees for a long time. Well, I would submit that refugees are part of the problem, but not part of the problem of necessarily of, I'm going to have a hard time saying this, I can tell. It's the refugees as far as what they're talking about is vetting them. There's no way to vet these people. And the problem is, and I'll go as so far as to say, and people can call me racist, is that we were not created to be a multicultural cesspool where we allowed people to be able to make demands for free phones and free health care at the expense of the taxpayer, and somehow we're unpatriotic if we don't. This was a nation founded on Christian principles. You can believe it or not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change the facts. It's true. And The reason why Muslim countries don't like other people coming there and living there and preaching there is because you're undermining their culture. You're undermining their form of government. You're undermining every part of who they are. And yet America has slutted or prostituted itself in the name of tolerance and diversity, and we're suffering the consequences of it. We're watching Europe collapse, and America thinks somehow that we can do it better, even though they can identify the fact that the refugees are the problem over there. We have there is a variety of subversions going on, and the refugee issue is actually mandated. I think his name is Antonio Gutierrez, and he's the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, and he's mandating that we take refugees. So if the United Nations is mandating the United States to do something, then we are the inferior while the United Nations is the superior. Now, how many of you Fox News watchers that can condemn me for being able to, how dare I speak against the vets, and, you're just so unpatriotic, are even thinking about this? The refugees are controlled by the UN. Islam is used as part of it, as pawns to some degree, to be able to bring about the collapse of America. And consequently, I believe in Scripture somehow it talks about the fact that we will actually be underneath the sword, which, because of our deviation from God. The United States has created the threat in our occupation for other countries. If I went into every one of your homes and I told you how to paint your house, and I told you how to cook, and I told you how to clean your house, and I told you all that, you'd be agitated and you'd be pissed off and you'd want to come after me. Well, what makes us think as Americans somehow that we can flex our muscle in other countries and spread what I always call political syphilis, which is democracy, in a form of government we would never want for ourselves? We're hypocrites. And I would submit to you that, like the Islamic culture, I believe that we're the great Satan. And it's not only because we're ignorant, but we're allowing our government to tyrannicize or to oppress other countries with our money and kill our babies and the rest of it, So a couple of other things is, I want to make this clear. The VA is a socialist program. It is not a patriotic American program. There are other ways to be able to achieve benefits. And think about the overhead involved with all of the administrative costs. Imagine what would happen if we eliminated that and brought that back to the states, or even had private charities or something like that to deal with that, where more of the money could actually go to the vets. Body cams. People are like, well, we want body cams. We're patriotic and we don't like the surveillance state, but we want body cams so we can protect ourselves. Isn't that a violation of the Fourth Amendment? You're being put under surveillance with a body camera. It's not just for the cops. The word reform is a flag. The bailouts were used to pay off the bankers, not to pay off our debt. Supporting the military-industrial complex is not patriotism. And there's never one mention in the political debates about the bankers, the elites, the controlling entity, the fraud, the embezzlement, the corruption, and the ability to be able to fleece everything that you own. So as I summarize this political debate, I would really start scrutinizing and start learning a little bit more about what's going on, because the people that are there are evidence of what America has voted for. And to some degree, in a great degree, it's our fault. So I thought I would share that with you guys. I'm not really sure what the solution is to that. But I can tell you part of the solution is there's not a pill. The solution is to become more educated on the issues, understand your Constitution, understand what it says and what it doesn't say, and learn what the elected officials are saying, and watch if their actions match what they're saying. And what you'll find out 99% of the time is they don't. So anyway, you guys have a good weekend. I love you guys, and hope to see you guys at another event. So talk to you later. Bye.